putting work, turning nothing into something. They feelings hurt, we turning nothing into something. Give a fuck if they don't like me, cause all this bread I count excites me. Turning nothing to something, nothing into something. Turning nothing into something, nothing into something. Give a fuck if they don't like me, cause all this bread I count excites me. Racks on racks on.
What up? What is going on, everybody? What is going on? You already know what it is. It's your blunt thoughts on a Tuesday night, a little bit earlier than usual tonight. And we'll be joined by guests like we've been doing lately. We'll get to that in a second. Well, no, we'll get to that right away. Why we're going to waste time? We're going to be joined today by my guy, Rob from Talking Mets with Rob. You guys already know who it is. How you doing, Rob?
Good, man. How you been, man?
I've been doing good. It's been a while. You know, we chopped it up a little bit behind the scenes, but it's been a while since we did this. Since I don't even remember when the last roundtable was that ended abruptly. But it is what it is. No, man. Just I figure like this is long overdue. I should have had you on. Should have been returned the favor. Like I said, behind the scenes. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, as far as like putting out content or whatever. And you helped give me that final push by inviting me onto the round table, and had tons of fun doing that. And hopefully, you know, we'll continue that next year. Maybe we'll be a little better than how we schedule it and all that stuff. But no, man, like I said, it's been a while, but I guess I'll ask you real quick, briefly. I'm thinking you enjoyed the end of the season, right? Because I don't even think we spoke to maybe a week or two before the season ended, and then as far like I said, you know, we texted in the chat and all that stuff. But I think we ended pretty good, huh?
Oh yeah, I think so. And you know what? That's why everybody's so antsy on this offseason of what we're trying to do here, because you know we kind of actually, you know, pushed up our, I guess, winning perception more quicker than a lot of people imagine, because last year was supposed to be a quote-unquote transition year, and you know, not really trying to win, and a lot of people had them at 75 wins at best. And I know it was you, me, and Chris who thought they were going to be better than they were. I mean, I don't think anybody thought NLCS, but
right.
You know, we thought we would make the playoffs, and we did. And you know, it was a lot of fun. You know, it ended up being the pitching that kind of was the detriment of the team. And that's why a lot of people are complaining right now. I mean, at the moment, heck, I think me and you have to join the rotation the way it's looking at the moment where we're not doing nothing, because
we probably right in their price range too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yo, $500,000, man. I'm ready. Let's go.
Right.
You know, so yeah. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Like I said, all the guys that the Mets are linked to, they're still not off the board, so I'm not going to go crazy. They were never in on Max Fried, and Max Fried got a crazy contract from the Yankees. But, yeah, I'm not too worried yet until I see, like, top-line starters get off the board and the Mets don't have one. That's where I start to get concerned, because I don't want to have a reclamation project in Manaea like last year, or Severino like last year. You know, you can have that in the back end of the rotation, but when you're trying to fix guys at the top of your rotation, you're going on to the season with hope with your $765 million man in Juan Soto. So,
no, yeah, for sure. It's funny, right? Because you said the pitching is what kind of did us in the playoffs there finally in that NLCS, and like you said, what a bridge year or whatever the hell they wanted to call it. It turned out to be a heck of a year. But the pitching is also what helped to get us there too, right? The
Absolutely.
pitching had this turnaround after time. You know, Sean Manaea, Quintana, David Peterson, and you know, a couple of guys that came up out of nowhere, out of the minors, not out of nowhere, but came up out of the minors, and McGill, and ended up doing pretty good at the end there, a couple of spot starts, but then they ran out of gas, unfortunately, and now we're here thinking about how we're going to replace it, and we've seen what's happening. We'll get into all that stuff, but I did want to start out, and the first thing I did want to say before I forget, because sometimes I'm bad at this stuff, congratulations to David Wright on his number retiring, coming up on June 19th? I forget the exact date. June 19th.
Sometime in June. Yeah, it's like mid-June sometime.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of Met fans looking forward to that. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that. I hopefully will be able to make that one myself, as I've been at pretty much almost all of them, except for obvious. Of course, I didn't get to make Darryl Strawberry because I had to play softball that day, but that's a whole different story. So they want to acknowledge that. Now, I was having a little fun before, as I was getting everything ready and news starts breaking down. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And, Mets fans already been losing their mind. Where the hell did this go? Mets fans already been losing their minds and stuff about the lack of action, right? We signed Juan Soto, but where's everything else? What else is followed? Not much. And when when you look at it, it really hasn't been the case. But again, we'll get into that. But the question I put out there, and I put it out there as I tagged you in the little flyer for this or whatever you want to call it, is who's had the better offseason so far? The Mets or the Yankees? We know today they went ahead and completed a trade for Cody Bellinger, which, listen, they gave up, who was it? I forget.
Cody Petit.
Cody Petit.
Yeah.
And got $5 million, which is whatever. $5 million. I forget exactly how much money Cody Bellinger is due. I think he has 2-3 years maybe left on his deal. But that just it opens up a whole nother kind of word for me. It's like, how the hell the Yankees always able to do this, right? They sell these prospects, they get good players back, and now lately they're even getting money from smaller market teams than them. How the hell? I even put out a post saying I want to get to that point where we're able to sell on a lot of these prospects that we're hugging or we're not hugging, whatever you want to call it. Maybe other teams don't want them. Maybe we're not willing to put them in deals, whatever. But when are we going to get to the point where we're able to sell on a prospect that maybe doesn't really pan out or whatever, but we get good returns and get money back on the damn deal? Like, holy crap. But the question is, who's had the better offseason so far when you take into account, real quick before you answer? Just the notable moves, and if I forgot any, you can help me out here. The Yankees traded Nestor Cortez, Caleb Durbin, for Devin Williams. I forgot to put the return on that. They signed Max Fried to an 8-year, $218 million deal, and again, Cody Petit for Cody Bellinger and $5 million. The Mets, on the other hand, trade Eric Ozzie early on, minor league pitcher Eric Ozzie for Jose Siri. They signed left-handed pitcher Hennessy Cabrera, and notable, not notable, but because we need lefty relief, I'm going to throw him in there as a notable move. They signed Frankie Montas, as like you said, one of those projects from last year, Sean Manaea, Luis Severino style. And why the hell did I put Frankie Montas twice when I wanted to put Clay Holmes? All right, heck, that's what you get for rushing through things. They go ahead and sign Clay Holmes, and of course, the big boy signing of Juan Soto. So even though a lot of Mets, and again, these are just the notable moves. There's been a whole bunch of other little moves. The Yankees have made small moves that the Mets get criticized for. When the Mets sign a minor leaguer, the Mets fans go crazy. Yet I go and then I'm looking at transactions. The Yankees did a bunch of those moves in the last couple of days, but nobody says nothing. Or at least, maybe Yankee fans complain. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. But I know us Mets fans. But, we're like, oh, the Mets are not doing anything. They've done things. It just hasn't been headlines. But so far, just looking at this, again, these are the Mets move. These are the Yankees so far. Who's had the better offseason in your opinion, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you have to lean towards the Yankees because, every move that they made was a need, right? I don't think the Max Fried signing was a need, but I think they don't trust Rodon, and they just had to go. And again, I think this still revolves around Aaron Judge because he's getting up to that 33, 34-year-old mark where he might have 2-3 years of, Aaron Judge MVP seasons. And, you got to win in that time frame because if you don't, that back into the contract, just like every other long contract for a player, is you got to win within those prime years of those players. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. And when they lost Juan Soto, they had to pivot. They weren't going to sit there and, use Durbin at second base, or, Spencer Jones at first or something like that. They were going to get guys. And I still, Yankee fans are going to tell you that, they're better now than what they were last year. Yet, true. Yeah, you could say that. But again, how many times have the Yankees lost in the postseason because they couldn't hit? It was never the pitching. It was always them couldn't get in the big hit when it mattered. And guess who got the big hit when it mattered? It was Juan Soto. So, Bellinger, obviously, has a World Series title, has playoff experience. We know what Max Fried does with the Brave. I don't have to explain to anybody with that, right? Devin Williams was an awesome. I like the Devin Williams deal more than the Max Fried deal and the Bellinger move. I think that is something that Cashman usually tries to finds to do when it comes to the bullpen. So I'm gonna lean the Yankees, but the Mets haven't had a bad offseason. They got Juan Soto. They got a back-end starter in Frankie Montas, and if you want to say Clay Holmes, I still don't believe it. I think he's going to be in the bullpen. I'd be shocked. I know in his press conference today they were talking about 160 innings is their number that they're looking for with Clay Holmes. I still don't see it. I think you're going to benefit more for Clay Holmes being in the 8th inning spot as the bridge guy to Diaz. So I'm not saying the Mets had you don't get Juan Soto and have a bad offseason, right? But here's the thing. Castillo, Burns, all these other guys that we're talking about, along with Pete Alonso or Anthony Santander or Christian Walker, there's guys out there to fill the holes that the Mets need. Sean Manaea, same thing. So until those guys are off the board and they're not signed with the Mets or traded to the Mets, I'm not too concerned. I know it's frustrating, but after the Juan Soto deal and Max Fried deal, it kind of screwed up the entire market because none of these teams know what to pay these guys. Besides, the Yankees made trades, so numbers weren't really involved except for money exchange between teams. So it's a weird offseason because can you compare Anthony Santander to Juan Soto and then try to figure out a contract for Anthony Santander because of Juan Soto? No. That's a unique deal. And the Max Fried deal, I think, is unique because I'm not sure why he got 8 years. I guess because of the whole Red Sox Yankees back and forth. But I guess long story short, I'm going to say the Yankees. But again, there's still a lot of offseason to go. I mean, we're 2 months away from pitchers and catchers. There's a lot to do. By the end of the day, if I tell you that the Mets, trade for Luis Castillo, sign Manaea, and sign Pete Alonso, that's a pretty good, damn good offseason, considering that you already got Juan Soto to start off the winter meetings. So that's a good offseason.
No, for sure. And again, the question is so far, right? And you said it. The offseason is far from over yet. You know what I mean? And again, I think as fans, for whatever reason, we want things to happen a little bit faster in the world we live in nowadays with having the phones, on our hand with news coming through all the time. We want to see something. We're here, we refresh, and nothing happens, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But this is what it's been. And then we compare it to other sports where the offseason moves maybe a little bit quicker, but we forget that in those sports, there's a salary cap, there's this. The NBA has a salary structure where you know what you're going to get paid.
Correct.
If you stay here, you get the max. And this is what this max is. If you go over there, you get this max. That's it. There's really no negotiating. Over here, it's just open.
Yeah.
It's open.
And you talked about, because obviously it's crosstown rivals. So you're going to talk who had the better offseason, Mets and Yankees.
Yeah, of course.
By the way, we shouldn't be comparing the Mets and Yankees. You know why?
Absolutely not.
We play each other 6 times. That's all. The only time I care about the Yankees is when they're playing us. Guess who's had the better offseason in the NL East? The New York Mets. The Braves haven't done nothing. They just lost Matt Fried. The Phillies, who are crumbling over the last 3 seasons, got to the World Series, NLCS, now NLDS. So they're on the verge of having their asses out of the postseason the way they're trending. They haven't done nothing. So I'm more worried about what the NL East teams do than what the Yankees do. I know it's more of a fun conversation because you'll have Yankee fans come on the chat and the Met fans come on the Yankee fan chat and all that and go back and forth because that's what we do with crosstown rivals, right? We all go on WFAN and mention back and forth, right? Hector, you right?
No, of course. I mean, listen, and we came into the offseason ready for battle, right? Sure. With the biggest battle of the offseason, which was trying to see who was going to come away with Juan Soto.
Yep.
And yes, always because they're the other team of the city, they're the big brother, whatever you want to call it. Let's be honest. They have been the big brother. We're hoping. I mean, but you're never going to change that. No. You're just hoping to get on equal footing, I guess. And will we ever be able to get on equal footing? Who the hell knows? But at the end of the day, does it really matter? No. And it's even like I said before. See, now you got some fans losing their mind, right? Because it's the other question that it's kind of the same thing, right? But what approach would you have preferred? Would you have preferred to miss out on Juan Soto and then pivot to the moves that the Yankees are making? Or would you still like the position that you're in where you landed Juan Soto? The offseason is still not over. Have you made other headline winning moves? Absolutely not. But for me, the answer as to who's winning the offseason so far, yeah, I guess you can say the Yankees as far as getting names and stuff, but we're still addressing needs. It may not be the way that we all want them to. I don't want it to be a project for every single pitcher that we sign. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you that right now, and I'll get into more of that. Hopefully we have time to get into all of these things, but I don't want everybody to be a damn project. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a lot of time, and really, when you land Juan Soto, is anybody really beating you in the offseason?
No, no.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, I guess I'll give the Yankees a little bit of an edge just because that seems to be the temperament. But when listen, we landed the big fish. We landed the fish that almost everybody wanted. If you suggested, right, which I kind of did, when I was like, yo, you know what? Step away already. Enough. Walk away from the table. These negotiations are getting out of hand. If you even suggested anything like that, Met fans wanted to kill you. They wanted Juan Soto no matter what.
Yeah.
So now for fans to be like, oh, well, look at what the Yankees are doing. We should have done that. Oh, plan B and C. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I agree.
On the heels of that, where can we go to follow that up? So the talk the last couple of days, which has been frustrating the hell out of me, but it's a subject that I do have to touch with you because let's be honest, you and I had some fun conversations when it came to this guy, right? We had some fun conversations when it came to this guy, and I had it written like this, and it's been like this for a couple of shows that I've done now, right? And it's, are the Mets ready to move on from Pete Alonso, right? Because a lot of people look at it as, oh, well, Pete didn't take the deal that the Mets offered him, and Pete went out there and got Scott Boras, and Pete is going for the money, and Pete this and Pete that, and it's all Pete's fault that Pete is not a Met yet because Pete, for some reason, has to be the player that takes the best team-friendly deal the first time it's offered to him. If not, then he's the biggest trash in the world. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And that's probably not the good word. I shouldn't say that. But, like, he's like the worst person in the world, the worst player ever, because he didn't take the first deal that the Mets offered him. That was team-friendly, or that people felt that was fair to Pete. Okay, maybe he should have. Maybe he shouldn't have. Now, as it's all played out, he probably made a mistake because he probably cost himself some money because his walk year was maybe the worst walk year you could ever see, right? Even though he had 34 home runs, how bad could it be? But we heard the last couple of days where, the Yankees are engaged with Pete Alonso. Does that change with the trade for Cody Bellinger? I don't know. I was watching SNY earlier today, and they have Cody Bellinger penciled into center field.
Yeah.
And there's still a question mark for first base. I forget where else they put it, if it was third or second. Anyways, there's still question marks for the Yankees, first base being one of them, meaning they could maybe still go after Pete Alonso. You know? I don't want to see that, Rob. I don't want to see that. I listen. We'll get into it.
Yes.
But what are you on the Pete Alonso situation right now? I guess 2-3-fold. Personally, how you feel about bringing him back, not bringing him back? How do you think the Mets are looking at it when it pertains to the question I have on the board as, are the Mets ready to move on? Because I question whether David Stearns really wants to bring Pete Alonso back. I think he recognizes and he gives us a lip service of, yeah, Pete's a great man and blah, 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 blah. And he knows that the fans appreciate Pete, so he's going to make us feel good about the whole situation. But I wonder behind closed doors if he says, man, listen, I hope somebody offers this guy an outrageous number that I can really weasel my way out of this.
Yeah, again, I talked about it yesterday on the hot. So, like, where people are comparing Bregman to Alonso, which is not fair for either player, by the way. comparing those two guys because they're two totally different players. But yeah, when it comes to Pete Alonso, yeah, I said I do want him back. But again, the fact that we're looking at it from a perspective of a biased Met fan who saw Pete Alonso grow up, be the homegrown Met, be the star of the team, being the best player for a while, and little by little, it seemed like he was sliding away from the team. Now, the playoffs kind of turned a lot of people around, including myself, because we all know there was a lot of Met fans turning on Pete Alonso during the season and when the season ended. And if he didn't hit that home run and struck out in Milwaukee, nobody wanted him back. I'm going to tell you that right now. There would be more people that saying that they wanted him back now would have said that they didn't want him back. And again, he's had good postseason numbers, the little postseason games he's had. I want him back. But I also realize that too many people are too steadfast focused on if Pete Alonso's not on the Mets can't win. It's a stupid concept. It really is. Because we've done a lot of losing with Pete Alonso. And even though baseball is a team sport, right? Why do we always blame the stars, but we're afraid to blame the homegrown guy? He's part of that problem that whole time that we were losing, right? And it's not saying I don't like Pete Alonso, but we make him better. Like, why is it there isn't a bigger market for Pete Alonso? Why isn't it teams that we've been hearing for freaking years, the Cubs who wanted Pete Alonso for 3 years? Why aren't they jumping out and giving him a massive contract if they want the guy? What about the Seattle Mariners? What about the Nationals that you heard someone talks about the Nationals looking for a first baseman? Why aren't they, going out there and giving them 7 years, $200 million or whatever it might be, a contract that the Mets probably wouldn't offer? Why aren't they doing that? Because the perception around the league is that Pete Alonso isn't as good as everybody is portraying him, specifically Met fans. And Chris, about the end of the season, talked about, and he had a perfect stat line throughout his career about the quote-unquote padding the stats throughout the season. And when you having bad seasons and there's no pressure and you put up the numbers you do, this is not just for Pete Alonso. This goes for a lot of players. But we heard, and heck, we were on the roundtable a couple of times when Lindor was really struggling. And we had a big argument about it during that time. I'm going to call it an argument, but a confrontation back and forth, right? How many people were talking about Lindor pads his stats, right? But they would not bring up Pete Alonso, who does the same thing, right? But Lindor's padded stats, he was on successful Cleveland teams that actually made the playoffs. So those numbers actually mattered during the season because they were in playoff hunts. Pete Alonso, 2 out of the 6 years, he made the playoffs. Every other year was basically, done in July, done in August, maybe even done in June, the way some seasons were looking. And, how many, and just this year alone, and then Met fans really started to look at it, where how many home runs he hit in basically garbage time, where the Mets were up a ton of runs, the Mets are down a ton of runs, and the game was basically out of reach on both sides or either side, and he would hit the home runs. And that's how he got the majority of his RBIs. And again, when it came time to playoff time, he hit the big home runs. He got, he played better. So, we can look at it a lot of different ways. But Pete Alonso was part of the problem with Lindor, with a lot of other guys, of the slow start. And we were on the verge of calling this core sour. Like, we were this close of calling it, and a month away from selling everybody. And Pete Alonso is probably going to be part of that. I think the Mets are going to sign Pete Alonso, if that's what everybody wants to hear, I guess. But I don't think it's wrong for the Mets to say, you know what? They talk about Vladimir Guerrero, and, I guarantee if Vladimir Guerrero comes up in conversation in regards to, well, could we give Pete Alonso 6 years? Or do you want to wait a year, bring in a guy like, Paul Goldschmidt for 1 year, or trade for Yandy Diaz, or, a stopgap guy for 1 year, or even put Vientos at first base. I know that's crazy, and sign Bregman, and people might think that's the worst thing in the world. I know it's not the sexy idea, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work. I think people think that it can only work if Pete Alonso is here, and it's foolish. It's foolish thinking, right? It's foolish thinking, and that's not saying Pete Alonso is a bad player or anything like that. What I'm saying is that there's other ways to go about it, and it's possible that the Mets could sign Bregman, right? There's been a lot more talk about it over the last, I would say, week and a half than we even thought that could be possible. And I don't know why people don't like Bregman. I guess maybe some don't like the cheating stuff and everything like that. Listen, if the Mets can cheat and get away with it and raise the championship, I can care less the following year what we get. Like, honestly, I don't give a shit anymore. Like, you know what? Where the steroids? Give them that too. Why not? I don't care anymore. Like, Bregman's a solid player. We are not replacing Bregman for Pete Alonso. That's where a lot of people went off kilter yesterday on my show in regards to that. That they're comparing the two guys when they're two totally different players. Bregman's a gap-to-gap guy. He's more of a pull guy. And what's is funny, and I looked at the StatCast, and he would have hit more home runs at Citi Field than he did at Minute Maid Park because he likes to hit that left center field gap. And we know after it jukes out of the Crawford boxes, it's a deeper ballpark in left center field. And that's where he loses a lot of fly balls, and they don't go over the wall or they actually get caught. They would be out at Citi Field. It's about 5 or 6 home runs. So that 25 could have been 30 home runs. And again, not saying that he's probably a better offensive player, well-rounded than Pete Alonso, because Pete Alonso with the power, Pete Alonso gets the majority of his RBIs from the power. He doesn't hit home runs. He doesn't produce. And I think that's an issue that I get frustrated with a lot of people because people love power. And I know baseball has gone to the power side a lot more and the home run side a lot more, right? Heck, we're old school. We like the average guys. We like the stolen bases, right? We like the great defense, the great pitching. But we know baseball is more of an offensive game now, and we understand that. But we also understand good ball players. And Bregman's a good ball player. And I feel like there's going to be Met fans, and you see it on X, heck, all the time, right? People are like, oh, I can't believe they haven't signed Alonso. If they don't have signed Alonso, what the hell am I going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to root for the jersey. You're going to root for the name on the chest. Right? How many players have gone through the Mets organization all these years, and you kept on rooting for them, even if you don't like the players or not? We rooted for them, right? Remember, not too long ago, we signed Michael Walker and Rick Porcello. That was our big signings, right? And we still rooted for this damn team. This is what we do. So let's not act like Pete Alonso is going to go on the wayside, right? How many people were going to not root for the Mets anymore after Jacob deGrom left, right? I guarantee you they came back last year. So the fact is, we got to understand that there's a life without Pete Alonso, and it might not be a bad thing. Not saying that it would work out. Right? The Mets going to have a bad season next year, and Pete Alonso's not here, and everybody would be like, well, if you had Pete Alonso, you would be better. Yet, 4 out of the 6 years, we weren't better. So, heck, I want to ask you one thing with Pete Alonso. Right? Pete Alonso was considered, for the majority of his Mets career, if not all, the best player on the team. Would you agree with that? I know Lindor, but like for the most part, before Lindor got here. And for most of Lindor. Right?
Yeah. Definitely before Lindor got here. Yeah.
Sure. Right? People are like, oh, Pete Alonso never had protection. And I laugh at that because Pete Alonso, with the power bat he is supposed to protect other guys in the lineup. He's not supposed to get protection. He's supposed to be the protection. Right?
I heard you say that on your show, and I get what you're saying. At the same time, I don't think saying Pete Alonso needed protection is probably the right way of putting it, but maybe having the right guys around him. You know what I mean? A better guy to hit behind him. Sure. Not so much as protection, but kind of to pick him up. We did complain for years about not having a DH, a proper DH. Sure. Maybe that could have been that guy that could have hit behind Pete. And then I don't want to say because, man, when you have Lindor and Nimmo hitting in front of you, that affords you enough opportunities to drive guys in, which we saw him do at a pretty good rate in 22, right?
Correct. You see, but yeah, he has a year like 2022, and nobody talks about protection that year. And then when he has a bad season, now it's about protection. And
well, again, that 22 lineup was a little bit better probably than 23.
There was still nobody behind him. Every game, it seemed like everybody was batting behind. Pete Alonso was different every game.
Right, but it was still a competent bat that got the job done absolutely. For the most part, you know.
You know what's the other thing too? Like, it's weird because like when Lindor moved from in front of Pete Alonso, who was supposed to be protecting him, goes to the leadoff spot. Now is all an amazing player, MVP caliber. Nimmo, remember when he was batting second or leadoff, they moved him to third spot in front of Pete Alonso. He was terrible. And then they move him again out of that situation, and then he's better. So why is it guys that were in front of Pete Alonso in the third spot when Pete Alonso was cleanup weren't doing well, but when they got moved away from Pete Alonso, they've done better? Like, I don't know if that's a mental aspect of just where you're batting in the lineup, or players are willing to go after, or not really, I would say go after players more, or at least Pete Alonso more, because how many times this year did Pete Alonso?
No. Listen, Rob, I kept saying it, and I heard it. I said it during the roundtable when it would come up. Oh, protection for Pete Alonso, whatever. It doesn't matter who the hell's hitting behind Pete Alonso until Pete Alonso shows guys that he's gonna lay off of that slider in the opposite batter's box. They're gonna keep throwing it. So it's really about Pete Alonso showing, no, I'm going to be better. I'm not gonna continue to be susceptible to the same pitch for pitchers to stop doing that, no matter who the hell hits behind them. And we saw he had JD hitting behind him a lot of the time this year, and he was still swinging at that same pitch. You know, so I agree with you. I agree with you. It's on Pete Alonso. But I'll just say this, because I don't want to belabor the point. Like, you know, ladies and gentlemen, we started a little bit earlier. If you didn't see the post, because Rob has to go to work, I want to go to work tonight. So we wanted, to try to get it started a little bit earlier so we can get out of here in a reasonable time. We're going to try to keep it to an hour, but you guys know I talk too much. Anyways, like for me, listen, is there a little bit of emotion tied to it? Is there a little bit of the nonsensical, is the homegrown guy? And I'm just tired of seeing guys leave, Rob. Sure. I'm tired of seeing guys leave. And the whole idea when we got this new owner was we're now not going to be able to see that as much. And you can tell me what we kept Brandon Nimmo. We re-signed Francisco Lindor. We re-signed Edwin Diaz. I get it. But this is a guy that, it's meaningless. At the end of the day, I want to put up a flag. I want to put up a World Series flag. I want to go to a ticker tape parade for a championship. I want us all to be there. I want you to come up from down south. I want CP to come from wherever the hell he is in Washington, Hayden, everybody. We're all going to get together. Everybody in the chat, wherever the hell you are. I know Patty's going to be there because Patty's my dog. Crazy. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I want. This is what I want. But at the same time, why not have a guy that can, do some damage, put up some numbers, be up in our history books, have him play our whole year. We're going to retire. Thank you, Patty, who corrected us and said July 19th is the jersey retirement for David Wright, who was lucky enough to play his entire career as a Met. Maybe because he ended up getting hurt and had to retire. Maybe if he ended up not getting hurt and played a little bit longer, he might have ended up leaving the Mets eventually. But, yeah, they're still part of that for me. And then I also think that Pete Alonso is not as bad as some people make it seem. See, you say, that some people think that we can't win without Pete Alonso. A lot of what I hear is that some people say we're not going to win if we keep him. We need to get rid of Pete Alonso. That
I don't agree with that.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like,
mean, we won last year with him. But,
right.
There's a whole, perception that if Pete Alonso is not a Met, that the Mets are doomed. Like, it's kind of
no. But I do think that Pete Alonso in the lineup now with Juan Soto, not as protection, just a better lineup with a contract that we'll see what kind of contract he gets. Hey, listen, maybe Pete Alonso has to get one of those prove-it deals. and decides to
That was
come do it with the Mets,
that would
maybe he
be
says, you
crazy.
know what, I'll go somewhere else and do a prove a deal. That's how bitter I am now. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I'm thinking if we do bring Pete Alonso back on a good deal, reasonable deal from both sides, a better lineup with Juan Soto, I think we're gonna get more of the Pete Alonso that we expect than last year's Pete Alonso. Now, do I want him as well as every other Met to be better with men on base, especially men in scoring position? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, I'm tired of seeing all of these guys hit solo home runs. It's like I was telling CP the other day, man. One thing, if you listen to these older guys speak, man, when they talk hitting and when they talk men on base and stuff, and listen, now baseball, everybody, not everybody, but the new approach kind of dismisses the RBI, right? They dismiss RBIs don't mean nothing. RBIs don't mean anything. Well, these older guys, these old school guys, they took pride.
Yep.
Oh, there's a man on second. I'm gonna make sure I drive that run in some way, somehow.
Yep.
Now is I'm gonna hit a home run at all costs. I'm gonna hit a home run at all costs, whether it's man on base, not man on base, and there's no really adjustment to approach. I would like to see Pete Alonso do a little bit of that. Not just him, as a team, period. And listen, man, especially we're mad. We get mad at Pete Alonso and the fact that he swings, and sometimes you're like, oh man, take a walk, pass the baton. I'll tell you something right now that I've told a couple of people privately. I'm gonna tell you and I'm gonna tell everybody else. The 200 and plus people up in here. Love you guys, man. Appreciate you guys. Like I always say, if you see me put up the comments, that's my way of saying hello. Because when we have a guest, it's hard sometimes to get into the comments. I'm gonna try to do it anyways, but that's my way of saying hello. But I'm gonna tell all of you guys right now. You guys know I wanted Juan Soto. He's a fellow Dominican. I've had my eyes on this guy for a long time. If you think I'm not going to lose my damn mind when he doesn't swing the freaking bat and takes a walk, then you don't know what the hell is coming. One thing that drives me crazy is when I hear that the $765 million guy, well, he takes a walk. I don't give a shit. I'm not paying you to take a walk. And you mentioned something earlier about average. I saw a post the other day, right, that I want to share with you guys. I'm going to share with everybody here. Right? I thought this was brilliant. Not brilliant, but I thought this explains what I say. Hold on. Let's get this shit out the way because I want people to see this. Because this is, to me, is important. This is a comparison of playoff numbers between Juan Soto, shout out to New Mets era on X. Juan Soto, Mark Vientos 2024 playoff stats, right? Juan Soto, 14 games, 64 at-bats, 327 average, 4 home run, 9 RBIs, 3 doubles, 14 base on balls, blah, blah. You see it there, right? Mark Vientos, 13 games, 58 RBI, 327 average, 5 home run, 58 at-bats, 14 RBI, 2 doubles, 3 base on ball, 362 on base percentage, 636 slugging, 998 OPS. The reason why I brought this up is, right, because one thing that I hate, that bothers me is that batting average is dismissed. And now, if you're able to take walks and your on-base percentage is 469, then that's okay. And obviously, this is like outrageous. This is not really what it is because we know Juan Soto's batting average is more in the 280s around there. I would rather have him have closer to this batting average than that batting average because he takes walks. So look at my guy Vientos, who also has the same average, right? And he doesn't have the 14 walks that Juan Soto has. He only has 3 walks.
Mm-hmm.
But some people will kill him because he doesn't walk. Well, damn it, he's still batting 327.
Correct. I love average. I never disliked that. I love
drove in more runs.
Yep.
But Juan Soto takes a walk. So he's generational. I'm a Juan Soto fan. But come on, let's be for real. So that's another reason why I think we need the free swinging Pete Alonso. So that when he takes a walk, I can see somebody swing the damn bat.
Well, wouldn't you want Vientos behind Soto then? If Soto's
Well, I
been
mean,
that
listen,
guy?
no, the lineup that I would like to see is funny because you talk too much, Rob. I was at the end going trying to have some fun. Like, yo, give me your ideal lineup. I'm gonna give you my lineup. You've been saying a couple of things like bouncing us around, but like I say, I try to have an outline, and then who cares about the outline? We hit everything anyways. I would like to see Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Pete, Nemo. Now, some people don't like the idea of Nemo 5. Okay, you can flip flop Nemo and Vientos. But no, I kind of like the idea of having Vientos right there at third. Now, I did see on X, I forget who it was, and they put a good argument behind it, where you're like, but it brought me back to what I just said. If you have, let's say, Lindor, Vientos, Soto, now you have your best hitter batting third, which is from our time, that's how it used to be, right? Your best hitter will hit third. And if these two guys get on, he has an opportunity to drive them in. But is he going to really drive them in? Or is he going to try to take a walk?
I don't know.
I'm kind of being a little sarcastic there, but I'm
gonna tell you right now, though. I'm gonna tell you right now, though. You know who I want up? If you want to compare, I want Juan Soto in a big spot. Tell you that right now.
No, of course.
But again,
I just talk about the starting the game and boom, 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 and everything pans out beautifully. The first two guys get on. Is Juan Soto going to try to, drive him in, get a hit, or is he going to be up there trying to work a walk too to pass the baton to Pete Alonso, who everybody hates?
Well, you know what? I tell you right now, Peter, with Soto, Vientos, there's going to be probably three guys in front of Alonso, most likely in this lineup. I think he'll be the cleanup hitter. There's going to be a lot of guys on base for him, so he's going to have the opportunity.
Not, if we have it our way, if it works out, we see Pete Alonso bat in the first inning. That is a great thing.
I don't mind
whether
that.
there's one man on base, whether there's two men on base, whether there's nobody on base because either Vientos or Soto hit a 3-run bomb.
You know what's funny though? Like the two spot is so interesting because there's about 3 players, or you can even say 4 players that have their best numbers batting second. That's Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, and Vientos. All 4 of those guys have massive numbers in the 2-hole. Can't all bat him second, right? So what is the best option here? Do you leave Nimmo in that 2 spot? And, hopefully he gets back to a lot more looking at pitches, a little bit more walks. And, you want Lindor, who's been outstanding in the leadoff spot.
I don't want to move Lindor from leadoff. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't want to move Lindor from leadoff.
I agree, 100%. Right? MVP caliber, you don't move him. Right? But, I'm still very interested in leaving Nimmo putting Nimmo back in the 2 spot. Because I feel like Nimmo, if he can go back, I'm not saying to not try to hit home runs. He can still hit 20 home runs and still work his walks, get that on-base percentage up. The big reason why Nimmo was moved throughout the lineup because the guy kept on striking out too much. And then his on-base went down, his walks went down, taking pitches went down. Everything that Nimmo does extremely well, he was doing worse because he was just trying to hit home runs. And that's not Nimmo's game. I'm sorry. When you got a 30 home run guy in Vientos, 25 to 30 home run in Soto, 35 to 40 home run in Alonso, 25 to 30 with Lindor, and I'm going to put Alvarez in the 20 home run category because I think he would be that guy just in a normal year. You have 6 guys that hit 20 plus home runs, if not more. You don't need Nimmo to hit between 25 and 30 home runs. He doesn't need to do that.
No, and I'm thinking and I'm hoping that Nimmo's going to come back with a better balance now, finding that balance between that power that he's found and being that hitter that, gets on base, takes that walk, hits for average.
I want Nimmo to pick that spot for a home run.
But it's interesting, though. I'm sorry. It's interesting what you're saying. And, obviously, it's a little getting a little ahead of ourselves doing lineups, right? When we don't even have a complete roster yet. And we don't even know if Peter's in it. I'm putting Pete in it because I want Pete in there, right? But you bring up an interesting point, man, of hitting Nimmo 2. And then my question is, who would you hit third? I'm guessing Soto because how far down you're going to drop him.
Well, that's the thing, right?
How do you feel about Because when I gave my lineup, I even got some pushback about not alternating lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, which I understand.
Yeah.
Ideally, but my whole thing was like, my whole thing always is if I have good enough hitters, I don't give a damn what you do.
I agree.
My guys are gonna hit. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? But I do get that you don't want managers to be able to bring in their shut down, righty to face 3 righties in a row, and
Sure.
So
Well,
I get it, but how do you feel about that? What would you do if you put Nemo 2? Where would you put? What are you doing 3 and
that's
4?
the thing, right? You would think you can't clean up. You don't want Juan Soto not the bat in the first inning, right? You want him to get the most at bats, so you want him at least in the 3 hole at the very worst, least, right? So, but again, if you do that with the lineup that I just said, you're going to have 3 lefties in a row, unless there's a lefty on the mound and Lindor's switch hits, obviously. You're going to most likely have 3 lefties in a row, and Lindor.
Which ideally you want that against the righties later in the game when you worry about that,
yeah.
where they're going to come
but,
in with.
But again, like if there's a lefty on the mound, I could see you throwing Vientos in the 2 hole just to flip up the
which they do that a lot.
But like during the game, when it's the 6th, 7th inning, they're going to try to match up anyway. So it's like, put your best players forward and worry about the 7th inning when you get there. So I think you put your best 5, and I think
let's say we bring Pete back, Pete 4, Vientos 5, I guess.
Correct. Yeah.
Or Vientos 4.
I would like Vientos 4, but you're not going to throw Pete in the 5th spot. You're just not going to do it. Unfortunately,
I think we did that with him a couple of times this year. No,
that's when he was terrible. He couldn't get any RBIs in. Like he couldn't score. He couldn't get any of the runs in. Like that's why you had to move him. The big reason why they'd move Nimmo around, Lindor around, Vientos around for that matter, was because Pete Alonso wasn't doing the job. So we were trying to find offense from somewhere else and run production from somewhere else. That's why Nimmo batted 3rd. That's why Lindor went to leadoff. That's when Vientos crept up in the lineup when he took over the job. And he was batting 6th and 7th. And all of a sudden, the middle of the year, he was batting 3 or 5 and around Alonso because we couldn't trust Alonso to score those runs. And that's why the lineup was moved around so much. Yes, a lot of those guys weren't good earlier in the season, but after May or the end of May, Nimmo started to pick it up a little bit. And then we know what Lindor did. And then Vientos just went on the tear. And, Alonso was the one that was kind of, stalemate throughout the season. And who knows how many more wins we could have had if, Pete Alonso was Pete Alonso. 45 home runs, 110 RBIs. Could have been a lot different of a story. We might not have been fighting to the last day of the last 2 games of the year against the Braves and had a dramatic comeback to make the wild card. Like, it's little things like that is frustrating to me. And again, you could do a lot worse than Pete Alonso, right? You obviously, right?
No, for sure.
We can do Pete Alonso is perfect for this lineup, but with Soto. But he's got to get signed first until we figure out the whole lineup craziness.
No, listen.
Let me ask you: what if the Mets get Bregman instead?
No, I was gonna go there, and I was gonna kind of like bunch it all up, right? As we try to move it along, because I want to get you out of here because you have more of a scheduled start time at work than I do.
Figure it out. No worries.
But there's so many ways we can go, and I know the first 2 names here are pitchers, and one that I still haven't corrected the spelling as I'm carrying this over from last time. So let me do that real quick. But when you talk about Pete Alonso, and there's a lot of things, the main thing is either go trade for Vlad or get a stopgap for a year and then try to get Vlad in the off season, maybe even during the season, whatever the case may be. One of those stopgaps, I guess you could look at as maybe signing Bregman, but is that really a stopgap? If you go ahead and you sign a Bregman too, I'm gonna guess what did he turn down from the Astros? I don't remember. Do you know?
It was like 6 for 154 or something like that. 6
for 154.
It was a pretty decent contract.
Right. So is he looking for more years or more money? I don't know. But if you go and sign Bregman for that kind of deal, which is going to be more than 6 for 154, we're going to guess, then do you go and follow that up with bringing in a Vlad Jr. next offseason as well? Well, I'm not so sure.
I think the conversation in the Mets, office right now with with Stearns and other guys is that do you sign Pete Alonso long term when Vladimir Guerrero will be on the market next year? Like I think that's a conversation. Again,
Yeah, and that's where I was gonna go, because I'm just to like put a bow on the Pete Alonso thing is, like I said, I want Pete Alonso back. I think Pete Alonso could be a good Met. Do we absolutely need Pete Alonso to win? No, but I think we can win with Pete Alonso. Just like there's other ways to win.
Sure.
Now, if you're gonna tell me that the Mets pull off a trade tonight, tomorrow, whatever the case is, somewhere this offseason, and actually go and get Vlad Jr. and move on from Pete Alonso, am I gonna be disappointed that Pete Alonso's gone? Absolutely. Am I gonna be upset that we got probably the better all-around hitter? Not probably. That we got the better all-around hitter, another fellow Dominican in Vlad Jr.? Hell freaking no. I'm gonna be ecstatic. Let's go. That's my team. Now I root for Vlad Jr. I'll still be rooting for Pete whenever he's not playing us. But now it's gonna be about the Mets and Vlad Jr. So I wouldn't be upset now. There's certain things that I don't want to do. I don't want to go get a Nolan Arenado. I don't even really want to go get an Alex Bregman. I don't. If I'm gonna do that, I'd rather keep Pete. Now, I forget where I was that I saw that said, I think it was like a former GM talking, and he was like, if you think there's no tampering, then you don't know what the hell's going on. There's always tampering. So if the Mets have a tampered and they have a really good feel that they'll be able to land Vlad Jr. in free agency, then go ahead and go the stopgap route. It's gonna piss a lot of people off in the meantime, but eventually we'll get over it, especially if you go ahead and win even this year. And if you go ahead and you land this Vlad Jr. at the trade deadline or next offseason, even more we'll eventually get over it. You know what I mean? Who was the other? I forget what others like. There's not much that I would rather do other than Pete. But if the end result is eventually you get Vladdy, and that's what they really believe behind closed doors, then we're gonna have to swallow it. But you know what? I don't want to see Rob. And again, this is meaningless. It's meaningless. But I don't want to see him go to the Yankees. I don't want to see him go to the Yankees. That's gonna really, really piss me off. And to me, it would take away a little bit of the good. What is that called? Whatever. But the good that you did by stealing Soto away, and now you let them. And I guess you could say we let Pete go, but to let him go there, like, nah, I'm tired of seeing guys go from us to them and have success. And I don't think Pete is done. I don't think Pete is a bum.
Oh, no. Oh, you mean Dr. Darryl, those guys?
Yeah. You know?
David Cohn,
so,
you know?
Like, I definitely don't want to see that. But, you know, again, that's at the end of the day, what does it really mean? They take Pete and we win. Woo! Damn, do I really want to go here with you? Because I just said we're going to. If we have time, I do want to get a little bit into the whole Soto situation, a little bit. See, get your opinion on a couple of things. But, you know, since I put it up here, the other guy is Sean Manaea, and we don't know what's going to happen with Sean Manaea. We see so far the approach with pitching. And I'm going to be honest. I don't want to be a hypocrite, Rob. And I've said it many times. I don't like long-term deals. I'm uncomfortable with the 15 years of Soto.
Of course,
I definitely don't want long-term deals for pitchers. So I'm not upset that the Mets didn't go and sign Max Fried for 8 years. I'm not really too interested in signing Corbin Burns for 7 years or whatever the hell he wants. 4 or 5 years, I don't have a problem. So I understand the approach that David Stearns takes because I think he's with that line of thinking. So I can't be that critical of that. My whole thing is, does every guy you bring in have to be under 1 year or 1 year and an opt-out? You know, we're going to throw you in the lab type deal, experiment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or can we get a short-term deal, whatever? It may not be the headline. It may not be the surefire ace, but somebody that, damn it, is willing to be here in Sean Manaea, whom you've already put in work, and yes, he did something on his own, like the whole switching his delivery to Chris Sale style, whatever. But you guys also put in work with your pitching lab, Jeremy Hefner, whatever. Are you not confident in your processes and that you can continue that with Sean Manaea? Maybe you're not confident in Sean Manaea. I don't know. But why not do that 4-year deal with Sean Manaea?
I think they will. I think they will, right? I don't think Sean Manaea is going anywhere until the Mets get the final call. Like if he gets a 4-year deal elsewhere and if the Mets match it, he's going to come back to the Mets. I find it hard to believe that he's not going to come back to the Mets. But it can't be Manaea being the ace. Like, that's the problem that I have. Right? I love Sean Manaea. He was a badass for our team. He showed up in the playoffs. You know, he broke down at the end in the NLCS. I mean, he never pitched. He hasn't pitched that many innings in like 3 years. So you understand him breaking down, right? But it's unfortunate, right? But you can't now. If you want to say Sean Manaea, let's see if we can throw him in as a number 2. No problem. I can go with that. But he has to be just as good to be a number 2. We forget that nobody stepped up. Manaea stepped up. That's why we considered him Manaea an ace, because everybody else was having 4 ERAs. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, you know, as good as Manaea pitched, you know, if the Mets actually had an ace, or even Kodai Senga was healthy, they would have never considered Manaea an ace. They would have considered him the number 2. We have to be careful of what Manaea possibly can be. I would love it, but I don't think he's going to be as good as he was or better than he was last year. Can he be similar to what he was last year? I mean, we sign up for that right now. But there is a possibility that he takes a little bit of a step back. And that doesn't mean he's going to be terrible. He can still be very good. But we need that ace, right? I would love Manaea coming in after our ace guy, our Luis Castillo, Corbin Burns, Valdez, wherever you want to say is an ace, right? When you go through a losing streak, when you go through bumps in the road, you want that ace to be the stopper. That's what you want. You know, you can extend your rotation a little bit, especially with the Mets going with a 6-man rotation that Stearns seems to be talking about every time he talks about pitching, right? But they're kind of, you know, setting up this rotation to only help Kodai Senga, and it annoys me. It's like, and then there's some people's like, oh, you don't think Kodai Senga is good? Yeah, but he didn't pitch last year. How can I have faith in a guy who hasn't pitched last year? It's the same shit with DeGrom, right? DeGrom pitched half the season. Yeah, when he does pitch, he's great, but he's not there the whole year. How can I trust that? I can't count on a guy like that. And now, if you do go with Sean Manaea and let's say Walker Buehler, right? 2 guys that I have no problem in this rotation. But now you're really counting on Kodai Senga to be one of the top guys. That concerns me for a guy who pitched, 7 innings last year? Like, I can't be confident in that. And now you're hoping Walker Buehler becomes that ace that he was prior to getting hurt. And you hope Sean Manaea is as good as last year or better. Or you're not getting the rotation that everybody thinks you're going to get. And now we're running on hope again. And how many times have we talked about this heck on the round tables throughout the season? We got to stop running this organization with hope. There's guys available that you can get. Just money. Or in a trade, however you want to do it. But there's guys available. So when you go into the season, I want as little question marks as possible going into the 2025 season. When the last day of spring training hits, I want to feel confident that this team has the least amount of question marks. Again, you can't predict injuries where that might pop up at the trade deadline, but still, I want to go with the least amount of questions going into the season. When was the last time the Mets have done that, Hector? Even in 2022, there was still the question about a DH. Right? I don't want to question about anything in the rotation or anywhere, right? I want to line up. If Pete Alonso is back, great. Our lineup's basically set, right? We would assume that the roster is basically set, maybe a bench piece here or there. You know, maybe a Winker or Iglesias or stuff like that. Is Acuna going to be on this team? Whatever it might be. I want the least amount of question marks. You know, the back end of the rotation is the back end of the rotation. Find me a 4th and 5th starter that doesn't have a 4.5 ERA in baseball, in any team, right? So I'm not worried about that. You might get a little bit of the lab helping those guys. But when it gets to 1, 2, and 3 in the rotation, I want guys, especially number one. I want the guy that I know can be a stopper of a losing streak. Like, not saying Manaea can't do that, but why
No,
can't
you know what, Rob? I think for me, I don't want Manaea because I think he's an ace or anything like that. I guess people could say I have a little bit of an emotional tie, whatever, because I got to meet him and play catch and all that got nonsense. But it's because of what you're saying right there is the question marks. So
Right.
when I'm talking about almost every move that we've made as far as pitching is someone that we hope to put in the lab and come out as Superman, at least Sean Manaea gives me something that I think I know what I'm getting. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh,
Do I
I agree
expect
with
it to be the high end Sean Manaea, maybe that he was at his best last year? Maybe not all the time, but somewhere in the middle there, some consistency, you
you. I
know?
don't think the Mets
Yeah, to
need
be
that
that
though.
nice third or fourth guy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, so that's where I look at it with the Sean Manaea. I think it's just something less of a question mark. But I guess you alluded to it, and again, I put it up here, and it's we know the targets or the names that are thrown around. Because of what the Astros are doing, is Framber Valdez an option? Is Luis Castillo really an option? And of course, I got Vlad Jr. Like I said, I got this up from the last stream, but I think it still applies. And if there's anybody else that you may, and I think you may have thrown a few names around already, but I guess what do you see more likely to happen? A Corbin Burns signing or a trade for Luis Castillo? Probably more than likely a Framber Valdez, who's a free agent after next season, I think, right? So it's not that much of a commitment. I'm not even sure how much he gets. I should remember because I just looked it up the other day when CP and I talked about it real quick. But I guess, yeah, what do you think is more likely the avenue that they will take?
Yeah,
A
I've said it
trade for
for.
one of these guys, a Corbin Burns,
Mhm.
uh, oh, Walker Bueller,
Yeah,
Jack Flaherty.
well, I think that the only way Corbin Burns is is a possibility, and we've heard this story or Ken Rosenthal wrote it in an article the other day that
Hmm.
there's a possibility Burns might take a high AAV 4 or 5 year deal. That's when
Hmm.
Stearns can be opening up his eyes and go, oh, I can do that. Right? I think that's the only way Corbin Burns is a possibility. Anywhere 6 years or higher, he's not doing that. So if Burns is willing to take a high AAV for 4 or 5 years, maybe even throw an opt out in the second year, make it a little more interesting. Maybe you could do that, but I still believe the trade market is where they're going to go. If that's Valdez, if that's Castillo, right? I don't think I think Castillo is more likely because Stearns talked about it many times. Anytime the reporters bring up pitching and acquiring them via trade, he always talks about he don't mind trading prospects, but he wants to make sure the player they get back has a little bit of control. And Castillo has control. Valdez is the free agent after this year. So you're not going to trade prospects for a rental who's 33, 34 years old. You're just not going to do that because you can lose him after the season. I mean, if you're trying to win, sure. I mean, it might work out this season, but Luis Castillo, who is a solid pitcher, and yes, he is still an ace. He is good. He's still damn good. You can get him, and I still believe this. If you see what the Yankees did? They got Bellinger for basically nothing because they took on most of that money left on Bellinger's contract. Even though they got $5 million from the Cubs, they still taken on most of that money. If the Mets take on most of that money, which most teams are not going to be willing to take every penny of that contract, Cohen will. You're not going to have to give up what people think that you have to give up. This is not Brody Van Wagenen being a moron and giving up your number one overall prospect while you take on Cano's contract, right? Even though it benefited the Mets, obviously the Mets won that deal because Edwin Diaz and Kelnick's on the Braves and, bouncing around Major League Baseball is not the player that everybody thought he was going to be. You're not going to have to do that. And I was supposed to do a Luis Castillo video today. I was working and I just forgot. I'm going to do it tomorrow. The trade proposal that I propose makes a hell of a lot more sense. Now, it is a top 10 prospect, but it's somebody that the Mets could easily get rid of. And no, Ken, it's not Acuna, by the way. Obviously not, if I'm talking that way, right? But it's two top 20 prospects one in the top 10, but it's guys that are easily expendable. And you're also taking on Luis Castillo's contract. So make sure you're looking for that video tomorrow. So in my opinion, I'm sorry. I do so much shows with Chris. Wow, Jesus Christ. Heck, geez, I tell you, Kenny emails me like 100 times a day, so I keep on saying his name too. Like, geez,
You good?
my bad. I think it's going to be Castillo. I think it's the way David Stearns, the way he's been talking, where he's willing to give up prospects, but he wants somebody with control. Castillo makes the most sense. Now Valdez is probably better, but
you think that's the kind of control that he's talking about? Not like the type that Crochet, where it was like control and no money. Yeah, Castillo's under control, but he's already under contract. And I don't know if his contract is out. I don't think it's out.
Castillo's going to get Manaea's going to get more money per year than Castillo's.
Is he really? Is he really?
Probably. Yeah, because Castillo's making around $21 million a year. Okay. Manaea is going to get 25.
I didn't look up how much Castillo was making.
Yeah, he's making 21 and a half the next 3 seasons. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, for that price, it's a bargain for a guy that's a number 1. And if you want to claim he's a borderline number 1 and into a number 2, he's still cheaper than what Manaea and Buehler is going to cost you per year. It's just a fact. The market is telling us that. So I think Luis Castillo is going to be a New York Met, right? I think how Bellinger was supposed to be a Yankee 3 weeks ago, the same situation I think applies with Luis Castillo. Because if the Mariners need a bat, they can't add money to their payroll if they don't shed that money. And the easiest way to do it is with Luis Castillo, because you can get something back and you shed that payroll while you can add that bat, and then you're not adding to your payroll. You're basically adding Luis Castillo money that you just got rid of and getting that bat that the Mariners desperately need. So it's a perfect fit for the Mets and the Mariners. The Mets are willing to take on the contract, and the Mariners want to shed the payroll to add that payroll back that they already lost from Castillo for that big bat that they've been desperately needing, because they have one of the best pitching rotations in baseball. They could not score last year. They need a bat. So it's a perfect fit. And I'd be shocked if it's not Luis Castillo. I think the Mets are still going to get a top-line starter. I'd be shocked if it's not Luis Castillo.
All right. So on that note, as we're pretty much at the end of my topics, unless we get into the thing that I kind of like wanted to ask you about, Soto, a couple of things there. But on the thought of pitching and where they may or may not go, how do you feel? This is going to be like a twofold question. The chances of landing this guy, and then if this was the guy that they landed and bring back Sean Manaea, I guess I would think you would feel better about bringing back Sean Manaea. But that would depend on what your what you think about this play. But what do you feel about the whole Mets' chances of being able to sign Roki Sasaki? And just before you answer, just for everybody to be clear, because I put it here, expected to sign between January 15th and the 23rd. Why those dates, Hector? Well, because his 45-day window has already begun and will expire on the 23rd. January 15th is when the new IFA process starts, and all the teams will have their new allotment of money.
Yep.
So it is expected that he will sign between that time, because more teams will be involved. Now, obviously, we know that teams have already put in their presentations. Mm-hmm. He will go through the process of vetting those teams out and then deciding who he wants to have meetings with. We hope that we're one of the teams that he meets with. And again, now I'm asking Rob, what does Rob think the chances of? And we know the rumors. First it was he's going to the Dodgers. Now it's mostly he's going to the Padres. We saw his agent's comments, left it open to go anywhere. But anyways,
yeah.
What are your feelings on that, on him? Do you think we have any shot, given everything that we know and we've heard in the last few weeks?
Yeah, sure. I wish it was just the most money, and it's not going to be the case, because he's just going to get the allotted, IFA money. So it's not like the Mets have a better chance than anybody else. I think it's just where he wants to go, where he feels comfortable. And again, the Pittsburgh Pirates have a better chance, just as good a chance as the New York Mets or the Dodgers, because just the way it allocates the IFA money. So I'm not confident in it. But again, if the Mets have to wait obviously they're going to have to wait until that week, the 15th to the 23rd of January. What if Sasaki doesn't pick the Mets and Burns is off the board, Castillo is off the board, and they're where they're going to go? You know, they're going to go to that tier B route, the Manaeas and the Buellers of the world, and it's going to be very frustrated. It's going to be okay.
That's a great point.
But it's going to be frustrating. So I think that's the issue that the Mets have fallen into. You can't rely on Sasaki picking you. Not that long. I mean, we're basically a month away. A lot can happen in a month. All these pitchers, these top line starters, could be off the board. Now, I don't think the trade possibilities, I don't think Stearns is that much of an idiot, and I don't think he is, to let Luis Castillo and Valdez get traded and not one of them be in the Met. Because you can still sign Burns or trade for Castillo or Valdez and still get Sasaki. That would be probably the dream scenario, right?
Yep.
If you trade for Luis Castillo and Sasaki picks you, well, guess what? Who the hell cares who you get after
Yeah,
that?
man, Sean Manaea was great to play catch, but hey,
we probably would sign him, but Sean Manaea would be
wow.
Sean Manaea would be fourth on the list. Like that's crazy in the rotation. So it's like, yeah, that's the perfect scenario right there, where Sasaki chooses you and you still get one of the top line starters on the market. That's a dream scenario. You know, we're Met fans. We're looking for that other shoe to drop, right? We were born into this shit, right? We wait for shit to happen, right? Even though we try to manifest it out of our heads, we all wait for it, right? We all were waiting for that Pete Alonso pop-up or that strikeout in the playoffs, right?
Oh,
the same thing for everybody else, right? All the other times, you know, when the Braves came back in basically the playing game, like, oh, here we really again, right? Like we always have that thought in our mind, right? We have the angel and the devil on our shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the devil takes advantage of it, takes advantage of us, and we always continue to be like, oh shit, here we go again. Right? Why is it always us, right? And it felt like that. And I'm hoping that because all the stuff they hear from players outside the organization, how the Mets organization is family oriented, the lab has helped a lot of players. Players who came to the Mets have been better. And you know, look what Severino got with the A's, right? It's you got to bring that comfortability factor to a player now. They want to come here. That was the thing we always talked about. Nobody wants to come here, but they have no problem going to the Yankees, right? We have to change that, and we have been changing that over the last. Steve Cohen's come here, right? As much as we couldn't stand Scherzer and Verlander, they came here, right? Steve Cohen changed that, right? If the Wilpons owned this team, it would have never been the case. No, we have to understand that Steve Cohen changed players' perspective, even though it's all about money. Who cares?
No, yeah, I was gonna say, but even that, like the Scherzer, the Verlander, it's whatever. It's the money. Even the Soto thing, it's a lot of money. But you know, him talking about the whole family aspect of it was important. But you made me think of something that almost like that I wanted to bring up also, which I think it's great. It's listening to Frankie Montas talk about the way that Sean Manaea and to me, Luis Severino, who had to know I'm talking to my replacement, and still gave glowing remarks about the Mets and the way they do things. And then you hear today Clay Holmes, the same thing. You know, I like what they're doing here. I like the way, you know, their processes, and I feel like they can help. Like that's, you just said it, what we have wanted for a long time. And that's why I kept saying early on in the offseason, like, we have to get Juan Soto in order to change the culture. No. We already started doing that.
Yep.
We already started doing that because, yes, the ownership that's able to say, no, we can sit at any table now.
Yep.
But then above that, because, yeah, that can only get you but so far. But above that, the way you hear a Jose Iglesias talk about David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza and the way they handled this situation and the way that he felt like, man, they weren't fair to me at the beginning, but he trusted them enough because of what they said to him to still stick around. And now he loves it here and wants to be a part of this.
Yep.
You know, and then, like I said, the Frankie Montas, the Clay Holmes, obviously the good things that Severino and Manaea are saying. And even a lot of these guys, even Beta, when you watch them right after the offseason doing interviews and stuff like that, the way all of these guys talked about the way things are being done here, those are great things. And I love to hear it. And I want to see it continue because, going out there and throwing money at guys all the time and guys just come here strictly for money, that bothers me. I'm sorry. It bothers me. Yeah, it's great to have the resources and be able to do it, but that's not how I want to land guys all the time. That might sound ridiculous, but I just think that there's other ways, so that's encouraging to see. Man, Rob, this has been fun. This has been great. Let me see if we could get into a few of the comments. I had starred some of them here that I thought might be important. There's so many, man. Shout out to all of you guys. We're near 300 people, man. I appreciate you guys. A lot of them probably here for you, Rob, but I appreciate them anyways. So and they've been great in the chat. The chat has been live. A newcomer. He announced himself as a newcomer, but he says he's getting annoyed like a lot of fans. But like myself and Rob have been saying, man, it's still fairly early. Now, I will say this, Rob, especially with pitchers, I really don't want to do the JD Martinez type signings. Two things with that just reminded me of something. But especially with pitchers, I want to get pitchers in here earlier rather than later, right? I want to be able to get them under us so that we can take control of their off-season program, so that they can have the option of coming down early to spring training if they want to. All of those good things, you know what I mean? I want to be able to do. At the same time, another thing is we did see last year where I guess they were able to get JD Martinez at their price, but it did cost us a little bit, right? He didn't get started for a few weeks. It took him a while to get going. Who the hell knows if that's why he ended up kind of like, I guess, wearing out at the end because he didn't have a full spring training. So, I don't know. I don't know if you got anything to add to that. But yeah, man, there's plenty of time, and I don't want to see guys signing too late, man. My opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, but there's no other teams. The other teams are doing the same thing. The Mets aren't unique in this situation. No. The other teams are waiting for whatever they're waiting for. The Mets are doing exactly what other teams are doing. And now you can say, well, Stearns, why don't you jump the market? Well, because now you're bidding against yourself. And teams don't do that. GMs don't do that, right? The signings that happened were competitive, right? Max Fried and the Red Sox and the Yankees, they were fighting for each other. So that's why it got competitive. That's why the number got where it got. Same thing with Juan Soto. There was multiple teams in on him that drove up the price, that drove up the competition. When, again, we know teams are in on Burns and, on other guys, but why bid against yourself when you don't have to, right? There's a couple of teams that want Burns, but there's nobody that's going to offer an 8-year deal when nobody even offered a 6-year deal. It's not, there's no business sense in that aspect, and again, everybody's talking about what the Yankees have done. They've done most of their acquisitions by trade. So, the guys that are still possibilities for the Mets are still on the market and nobody's jumping to them, just like the Mets aren't. And again, if I'm Stearns, I would have signed Burns already. Here, 8 years, 250. Let's go. Right? Let's play no games. Make it no games.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, I get that not bidding against yourself. At the same time, I've said a couple of times, like, man, go out there and pick somebody that you really want and just go get them.
I mean,
go get him. I heard Boris say, there's a lot of teams sometimes come to him with his free agent and say, listen, what's the take him off the board price? We don't want to get into the nonsense. What's the take him off the board price? And sometimes there's a take him off the board price. He said, with Juan Soto, there was no such thing. We were going to get into the bidding. Okay, well, go. I don't know if he had, but they find whoever that player is and be like, yo, what's the number that we get this guy right now? And if it's a number that you're willing to do, you do it. If not, you say, hey, no, we'll go back to bidding. Come back to us,
Yeah, I agree. And what's annoying to me, and that's why I gave the Yankees credit when it came to Max Fried, because they targeted him. They had a fight with the Red Sox, but Cashman knew what it was going to take to get it done that 8th year, and they did it, right? this is what I want Stearns to do because he still has not done this as a GM yet, right? I want to see him target a guy. Sure, whatever. Fire guys, damn it, right? Like I want to see him target a guy because I know there's guys that he wants, but it can't always be for what the number you want.
Yeah.
You got to get uncomfortable, right? Stearns had nothing to do with Juan Soto. It was all Steve Cohen. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable. You think Cashman wanted to give Fried 8 years? Absolutely not. Sometimes you got to get uncomfortable. I want this guy. Let's make it happen. Because if there's a case where Stearns might have a price, let's say it's for Burns. I don't want to go more than 6 years. And there's a team out there. Let's say the Braves come in out of nowhere and say, I'm going to give 7 years to Burns. You're going to let him go to Atlanta because you were too stubborn to not give him an 8th year? You do it. And you worry about the 6th, 7th, and 8th year when it happens. When you give these long-term deals, you worry about the first 5 to 6 years. That's when you want that prime production, right? How many times have the Yankees have extended, signed guys for long-term deals, and it worked out for 3-4 years, like the CC Sabathia situation? Those last 3 years of his contract were garbage. But guess what? They got a World Series in that contract, right? Teixeira, he wasn't good after like the first 2 years, right? A-Rod, all these guys, right? He was on the end of his career. Their contracts were terrible. But it wasn't because they got the World Series out of it. And I'm not saying, the Mets win the World Series this year and the next 14 years for Juan Soto can be complete crap, right?
I mean, I need at least 3.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. If it's here 15 years and we don't get 3 World Series, I'm going to be upset.
Let's get one first. We'll still be drunk during the following season. That's how much partying we'll be doing.
Right. Okay, maybe one season.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we're obsessed with the long-term contracts, but let's be realistic, right? When you sign Juan Soto for 15 years, how many prime years you're going to have? Let's say the Mets sign Pete Alonso, of Lindor, Nimmo, and Alonso. Maybe 3 to 4 of their best years still to come in their prime. After that, it's Juan Soto's team at the age of 29, 30.
Yeah.
It's going to be his team. And then you hope the Vientos of the world, the Alvarez of the world, the Acuna's, Jet Williams, or whoever's left on this team is going to step up into those roles of the core with Juan Soto. This is what you're going to have to do. You have to win over these next 3 to 4 years, because if you don't, Alonso's 34, 35, Lindor's 34, 35, Nimmo's 34, 35. They're getting older, and they won't be getting better.
And that's why I think like there's some urgency to what you got to do here. Like I understood the last season evaluating and all that, and I get the whole, him wanting to give young guys playing time and bring young, but at the same time, the core, it's in its window right now. But let's run through some of these real quick. With this one, I guess we've addressed it. We kind of the Monta stinks, but they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle. I get it. It's a little uncomfortable. But at the same time, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt, man. This has been this guy's reputation. It's just that we're hoping that now continue to be able to do that, right? Continue to be able to do what you've always done, but use the resources that you have.
Exactly.
Besides the big deal that the owner made on his own, That's what we want to see, right?
I made the joke, Heck, that, when Steve Cohen was making a deal with Juan Soto, he locked Stearns in the hotel room until they get the deal done. You know what I'm saying? But you're right. Montas doesn't suck. Only when the Yankees acquired him 2 years ago, and you seen what happened, he was hurt when they acquired him. They pitched him while he was hurt. That's on the Yankees, right? He had a 3.34 or 3.45 ERA when the Yankees traded for him. He was one of the better pitchers in the American League at the time. He was one of the top pitchers on the market, right? The Yankees pitched him while he was hurt, and then he went into the 2023 to 2024 season basically trying to catch up after injury. And then you see when he got traded to the Brewers, he got basically a half a run better, which is huge when you're already throwing that many innings and your ERA is not going that far up and down. When you have so many innings, your ERA is not going to jump that much. So to get your ERA a half a run lower, in a short time span he was with from Cincinnati to the Brewers is a huge jump. That means he figured something out. And you hope with the Mets, they could figure a little bit more out. And I'm not saying he's going to end up being Sean Manaea or even Luis Severino, but we're talking about Manaea being a 5, maybe a 4, probably not even that. You know, because right now David Peterson's probably going to be the 4th starter. I'm not going to go crazy with a 5th starter that's going to have a 4.5 ERA. This is what happens in baseball. Right. Look for me. Look at any rotation after the 3rd starter. Find me a rotation that has the 4th starter that has lower than a 4 ERA. You're not going to find one. It's just how baseball goes nowadays. This isn't the Braves of the 90s. It just doesn't happen anymore. Like, it doesn't work like that anymore.
Right.
You know, even the Yankees, you know, Clark Schmidt has a 4.2 ERA as a number 4 starter.
It's well, the Dodgers this upcoming year are expected to have one of those crazy rotations, right? Exactly. If all of their guys are healthy. What do you think about this? You think Soto can hit 40 home runs hitting in the 2-hole for the Mets?
Does he need to?
That's what I'm thinking. Is that
no. No, you see, again, this is the whole thing with RBIs, right? With home runs, excuse me. Who cares?
Give me the runs when they're on the pond.
He could hit 30 home runs and still knocking 95 RBIs. You know why? Because he's a damn good hitter. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need home runs to get those RBIs in. Unlike a lot of players in baseball nowadays, that if they don't hit home runs, they don't get that run production. That's the difference with Juan Soto. And again, guys, we act like we haven't seen Juan Soto play for the Nationals for 4 seasons. What he did to us while the Nationals were the division leaders. We forget about that, right? You know, the Padres seen him for a year and a half. The Yankees seen him for a year. We've seen Juan Soto. We know what he can do. Like, we're talking like we haven't seen this guy. Yeah, of course, his stats were a little bit padded because of Yankee Stadium. Sure. But if he drops down to 5 home runs less, say he hits between 32 and 35, are you really going to cry when you have Vientos hitting 30 and hopefully Alonso hitting 35 to 40 and Lindor hitting 25 and 30? No. You can actually make the case that Juan Soto has the best lineup around him in his career with the New York Mets. Just picture that.
I actually expect any player coming into the Mets and Citi Field to lose home runs just because of the nature of Citi Field. That's always my expectation.
Sure, but you know what? He might have a lot more doubles because of that.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. And you know, I think my bad. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, I was just saying with Juan Soto, right? If you look at the years that he was with Washington, right? He never really had, you know, he had Zimmerman getting older. He had a couple of other guys, Howie Kendricks, right? You know, Anthony Rendon was probably the best guy on that team other than Juan Soto in that lineup. There was nobody else there, right? And look, even in San Diego, he had Machado, right? He had Bogarts, you know, those couple of guys. But just look at the lineup as a whole. Lindor, Nimmo, Vientos, Alonso, Alvarez. What lineup has Juan Soto played in his career that has that much potential or that much of with the obviously the core guys and the younger kids that the Mets have right now, Vientos and Alvarez? When did he have that bunch of guys around him that actually can hit 25, 30 to 40 home runs? He never had that in his career. So you could say Juan Soto is stepping into a lineup that has a hell of a lot more depth than anybody else ever had with him. Because the Yankees sure as hell didn't. The Padres, after Machado and Bogarts, I mean, it wasn't much. So we're looking at it totally wrong. You know, Juan Soto could be better because of this line, even better because of this lineup. And I'm not talking about just home runs. Get away from home runs, please.
No, for sure. It's not.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I agree. You know, I think Patty hammered the point here also where we were talking about this. There's still plenty of time. We're anxious, but like she says, at this time of last year, Manaea wasn't signed yet, and neither was Bader. Again, but they also weren't the sexy names last offseason either. When we did sign them, it was like, oh gosh, another one of these signings, low risk, high reward. I was one of those. I was one of those with the Manaea signing. My guy Crazy says, I agree with you. The Yankees are not our issues unless it's the Subway Series. And
100%.
I think D was also piggybacking on that and saying I hate the Braves most and they are still good. It's gonna be rough.
Yep, of course.
Let's see.
If they stay healthy, which they haven't shown
Right,
the last couple seasons.
right. My guy Anthony from the I'd Hit That podcast says if the Mets wanted Manaea and P, they would have signed them. Just
Not
my
true.
opinion. I kind of like there's days that I feel like that, and there's days like where I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it. So I kind of get where he's coming from, but I also get what you say, not necessarily true. I didn't have this one start, but D says, preach, brother. I don't know who he was talking to, so we'll both say credit for preaching at one point or another tonight. Patty says, I don't want any more projects. Cindy's actually live today. Nice. Cindy's always saying that she doesn't catch my shows live. She has to catch the replay because I start too late. But she says, yeah, no more projects. D says we should all be very thankful to Lance Soto, which is what we said. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Are we really losing the offseason so far when you have Juan Soto? D also says he's 80% sure people will take the Mets offer for about 6 years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Darren again got a bargain out of signing JDM late. Just trying to find out. I had a couple of stars here. Oh, this is kind of like what you were saying, Rob, though, a little bit. But again, my guy Ann says Yanks had Soto and Judge and the best pitcher in the AL, and they still lost.
Cole wasn't the best pitcher in baseball last year. So
say again? Well,
I said Cole wasn't the best pitcher in baseball last year. And Judge and Soto, and that's it. You need more than that, guys. Two players don't win you a championship. I'm sorry.
Right, and he's saying, we still need an ace. We don't have no ace. They need real pitchers,
that
not
I agree with.
projects. So
I agree with that.
Can't outslug every team every game, which is true.
The Dodgers did.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, but the Dodgers kind of did that. Soto's not effing around. He wants to win, and probably told Cole in the start that he expects to dip. Everybody keeps saying like, oh, well, Soto told these guys like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Well, thanks, Buzz. Hope to see you more often, brother.
Yes, sir.
And if you're coming here because of Rob, well, thank you. And if you haven't checked out Rob, and for all of you guys, if you don't know Rob, you haven't checked out Rob, which is hard to believe. Check him out. Rob will tell you where to find his stuff. But yeah, Rob, as I look here, let them know where they can find you, both on X and YouTube.
Yeah, so Talking Mets and Rob on YouTube, X, TikTok, or wherever, all the social media pages. Again, subscribe to the channel. And again, I am going to have Hector on a hot stove on my channel soon. Chris is on travel, so he probably won't be here for the week, I believe. So I'm going to try to get other guys in here. Anthony's going to possibly come on tomorrow for Mets Hot Stove. I'm going to have Heck on. We'll work out a schedule point there. Hayden, I'm going to get other guys. I'm probably going to get Ibby from To Mets Do Us Part. Try to get him later in the week to do a couple of Mets Hot Stove or a Mets Talk Live, just so we can get more perspectives out there. Obviously, you guys, watched all those other channels as well. So I just want to, bring everybody in here. We are a family here. Even though, we kind of disagree more often than not, but we're a family, right? We are a family. We root for this goddamn team, and I'm still not sure why, but we do, right? It is what it is, right? We could have went the easier route, right? But life isn't easy, baby, right? It is what it is, right? When we win, it's going to be euphoric, right? Right? We were almost there last year. It's going to be euphoric. So Talking Mets and Rob, subscribe. There'll be a Luis Castillo video tomorrow on the Mets Hot Stove tomorrow, with most likely Anthony from Subway to Shea on the Hot Stove tomorrow. Thanks, Zach.
No doubt. Yeah, but like I said, check out my guy Rob, man. These guys put in a lot of work. Bob, CP, they've been working hard all off season. They put tons of content almost every day. These guys have been doing shows every day. They do little shorter videos that are not live. They do breakdowns on pitches a lot more than I do. I get bored by that stuff sometimes. I want action. I'm bored by this damn off season. I'll be bored about spring training 3 days into it. I need games. But yeah, man. So check these guys out, and yeah, definitely I'll come on. We'll talk about coming on later this week while CP is gone. Um, my guy Ant says Paul Gold shit. Well, I guess he was saying that when I mentioned the options, right? Like as stop gaps. No, I don't want Paul Gold shit. And there's other people here who said no, Goldschmidt is done. My guy says the Mets are the new kings of New
You
York. I
gotta win
hope so.
first. You
I
gotta
hope
win
so.
first.
We gotta win. All this headline shit, it's whatever. This would be a great off-season capper if we could do that.
That would be insane. That would
Be insane.
That would be an A+ off season in my opinion.
Yes, sir. Nobody could complain. I think even if they get Bregman, they can still get Pete at lower number or put Vientos at first base this year and then sign Vladdy next year and DH with Vientos. Listen, out of all the stopgap, out of all the alternate routes that we could take, the moving Vientos to first base is something that really pisses me off. Like the kid put in work at third base. Let me see him continue to do that instead of asking him now to figure out how to play another position. But hey, that's my opinion on that. Quasi says no Vientos at first. I think my guy Ant says yes, because Vientos thinks Vientos is not good at third. But hey, what are we gonna do? Rob, I'm gonna let you get out of here. I know you got to go to work soon. I also want to go out there myself. Listen, everybody in the chat, if I didn't get to your comments, I'm still seeing a whole lot of them. I apologize. I don't know what the hell this was for, but I know it's not for option. Derek.
That's a Wilpon signing right there, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that this was part of your conversation, and then it just caught my eye. When I'm like, Dylan Betances. Wait a minute, what is it? 2020 again? Something like that, Buzz. Something like that. But yeah, man, Rob, thank you, man, and yeah, everybody in the chat. If I couldn't get to you, man, if we didn't get to your comments, I see you, appreciate you. Don't be strangers. Come back. Don't just join me when Rob is here, and don't just join Rob when I'm here. You know what I'm saying? For the few of you that may have done that, but the masses of you that came because of Rob, join me too. Sometimes I'm a little fun, and sometimes I have some good insight. But nah, man. Again, Rob, this was tons of fun.
Yeah,
as
man.
always, you already know what the deal is. Let's fucking go Mets. Hopefully, we wake up to some moves tomorrow or soon this weekend or whatever the case may be.
Before Christmas, give us a present, please.
Yeah, before Christmas. But and we know, Jesus, my gosh, so many damn comments, man. Guys, man, you guys are the best. Wow, Jesus. Wow. Nah, yeah, let's get out of here. Listen, if you made anything good, I'll go back there and comment on the post game, on the post show, or whatever the hell it is, on the replay. Because I do go and watch these back so I can critique myself and so I can see some of the comments and stuff like that. But on that note, anything else, Rob? Any last words?
Nah, man. Hey, thanks for having me on, and obviously everybody in the comments, you guys are great as always. Again, you kept it going, right? Even if you disagree with us, right? It's always the conversations to have because we all want one thing: the Mets to win, man. Heck, thanks for having me, man.
Like I said, I want us all to be at that parade, baby. Blunt Thoughts section at the parade down there in downtown Manhattan and down the Canyon of Heroes, baby. Yep. Yo, love you guys. Peace out. Let's go Mets, baby.
Peace. Let's go Mets.